All right, so on the topic of muscle memory is this incredible thing that actors, artists, dancers, everybody has to understand that's doing creative work. Because muscle memory, the understanding of muscle memory connects the ability to be able to regulate your talent. You're literally regulating your talent by being able um, you're working with the emotion of your talent, and you're working to be able to access your emotion over and over and over and over and over again without losing your emotions spontaneity, which means that we have to, as artists and actors, look at the topic of muscle memory. So muscle memory will be, what is actual muscle memory? Muscle memory is the when the body takes in an experience, um, and the experience. There's a couple things we're going to cover here because this is a interesting, very interesting topic, and I also am going to encourage questions on this because I know how to answer specific questions, and this is a huge topic, and I want to make sure that I'm getting exactly what it is. You probably have dealt with this yourself in acting. What it is that you'll do an acting scene, you'll feel like you're spontaneous one moment, and then you'll redo the acting scene for another take, and the spontaneity will be down. And often that will happen because of the muscle memory in your body, and also the emotional activation, the emotional preparation. I like to call emotional preparation activation, because emotional preparation, you have to activate it for it to really mean anything. Which it obviously, you can have great meaning, but you want to be able to get that meaning into the acting interaction. So when we're talking about muscle memory, we're talking about the specifically the responses of your own spontaneity within your acting interaction, your acting scenes, your acting exercises, your acting improvisations. All of that is going to be times when you're experiencing a give and take within yourself, a receiving of the other actor, an expression, a release of expression, a buildup of emotional preparation might take you in a place where you have a heavy regret, or a heavy anger, or a heavy, even a very elated happiness. And that could be, these are all emotions that you could activate, and then you literally feel what I call it a visceral effect. There's a visceral effect when you're in reality. This happens to actors when they're in acting scenes. And when you experience the heightened level, now this is the heightened level of acting, which you can achieve. You're going to feel acting when you're doing your acting interaction, your acting scenes, acting improvisations, acting exercises. You're going to feel that you're absolutely in a spot where you've got a visceral effect. There's something literally like, some people will feel, uh, some people might feel even a type of lightheadedness. It's not like a headache, not feeling oozy or anything, although those things can happen. But the acting interaction takes into the factors of what's called muscle memory. See, when we are lucid with our ability to be able to release our emotional responses, we're affected by another, and we're able to just easily release our emotional response. That's very healthy human behavior, where that's just part of what interaction is. And the more times you practice, do more improvisations, the more acting rehearsals, you're going to be able to, when you're working with improvisational work, you're going to be able to increase your ability to respond to the other actor. This is muscle memory. See, now we're starting to understand that the muscle memory is the constructs of what holds our emotional weight. So when we have something that we hold back in our acting, and we don't actually express it into our work, then we end up having like a resistance that we build up in our acting. And this resistance can do a lot of things. This resistance can stop other moments from happening, and the resistance from your own emotional expression sits in, and then almost coagulates like a blood clot, but it's like an emotional clot where it coagulates into the body, and you literally have this like essence of stuckness within that. It's not fluid. You can do improvisations, but that one area of yourself's not really malleable. It's not really working for you because you have an emotion stuck in what I call is a muscle memory. Your muscle is remembering. There's a couple other ways to understand muscle memory. Look, there's a lot of things to acting, and we're dealing with the only way to really deal with acting is to just jump straight in and see what comes from it. That is, you go into your improvisations, you go in, you do your best to be 100% real, you activate whatever emotion that you're trying to activate, then you jump into the acting. Now, you jump into the acting, you don't know what you're going to do. You know that you have an idea about where the scene is, you have an idea about the exercise that you're doing, but you don't know what's going to actually be activated in the actual acting interaction itself. And when things are activated in you, there'll be times like another example of muscle memory. Muscle memory will be when you hear actors say, you know, I knew that I had an impulse to do something, but I didn't quite follow through on it. That's an example of muscle memory. It wasn't that they weren't doing the technique correctly. It wasn't that they were trying to hinder themselves. It wasn't that they were intentionally trying to psych themselves out in the acting. They literally had a muscle memory, just something activated in them, and something just didn't naturally release because prior something, or it could be the experience that they just never have felt before. They didn't know how to handle themselves in that specific event, in the acting interaction. And this happens all the time in acting scenes. We can't expect ourselves as actors to literally spend our days in normal civilization, and then all of a sudden we throw ourselves into a scene where there's a huge dramatic event occur, and we're dealing with huge event that's all scripted, and we're going to literally have effect. We're going to want, if we're doing the scene really, like actually really involved in the actual circumstances of the actual scene, you're going to feel the visceral effects of the scene, and you're going to have these things where muscle memory comes into your acting. And there's a couple different ways that it can work. So there's emotional baggage. Emotional baggage is also multi-layered. You have 2,400 emotions. 2,400 emotions can get activated in a spot. This is faster than a snap of a snap. All of a sudden, you're activated. And sometimes that's when there was maybe a buildup of sometimes there'll be a pocket of, this is fascinating. This is when you have a pocket of emotion that you didn't express in life, and then you put yourself into a situation, an acting scenario, and you're in an acting scene, and all of a sudden that pocket of thing that you didn't express in life all of a sudden gets expressed out in your work. It could be a really great moment, but and it could be an amazing moment, which happens, and it sometimes could just be something that it can come out in these ways where you're still not used to being interactive with that element. So as we rehearse our acting scenes, we then develop our muscle memory to be, it's like you're adding the flex to your emotional muscles. So your emotional muscles are getting worked out in a way that our natural responses will happen. That is where we're headed when we are gaining control. When we say control, I'm not saying overt control, where we're just gaining the ability to guide ourselves into emotional ballparks or emotional uh, sections of the work. So we might figure out that we need to come into a scene very angry, and we're able to access our anger. We go in and we access our real anger. And then through the work of improvisation, we are able to figure out how we respond in those types of actual circumstances and scenarios. So this just touches the surface when we're dealing with muscle memory, because muscle memory would be able to it stores our trauma. And when we store our trauma, we don't realize that we're doing it in life, or sometimes we will later realize that that happened. And it also will happen, and it connects to the topic of the emotional acting baggage. The acting baggage is something that will happen where we have an experience that's intense within our acting. We turn around in our acting, and we literally um, have such an intense experience that we don't actually realize that we're maybe as intense as we are, and then sometimes that can leave an impression on us that we still have to let go of or release after we do our acting. And when we go through the process of releasing our acting experiences after our acting, we release the element of muscle memory in our acting. We literally release ourselves from anything that would cause us to be less spontaneous. So we work to release that. And then when we go back to get the emotion later, it actually comes back stronger, or in a more, you have a greater awareness. Your talent actually has expanded in that loop of process. Basically, you're in the development of finding the emotion that you need for your acting. You find that intensity or the emotion or the um, happiness or giddiness or elatedness, or could be a number of emotions. It's not all negative emotions. There's many different types of emotions. And then we spin back to be able to process that. And once we process that emotion, we process through the muscle memory of our talent, of our body, of our being. And when we process through that emotion, we then are able to be able to have that emotion, not contained as in controlled, as in under complete lockdown, but we're able to know where that emotional area is within ourselves, so we have what's an emotional awareness about it. And that is the point of this whole thing with muscle memory. Muscle memory and studying and being aware of muscle memory will expand your talent in every kind of way that you couldn't even never imagine. It is a very difficult thing to explain muscle memory, because muscle memory will come up in the most impromptu times. You'll never, sometimes the most experienced actors, I've seen over 8,000 acting classes, CLASSAES, classes, uh, like literally so much of the work. And I've seen very, very, very experienced actors, all of a sudden, when they're working, all of a sudden have a hiccup. Sometimes those hiccups can come out and they can be brilliant, and they come out only sometimes. The muscle memory will release an emotion or a feeling that will have such depth that the actor, hopefully you have it on camera, because the actor would never be able to repeat it. But then they will be able to work through that emotion more once they're able to go through that process of releasing their acting baggage from the acting interaction. And then they go from there, and you can step through the processes to then have more awareness of that emotional element. Now, look, I have several books out here because I'm trying to be able to build up and working very hard to be able to make it very, very, very simple for every kind of acting technique to be able to use and look at acting by ways of looking at emotion. You're looking at emotion, you're working with the principles of improvisation. So you've got the best of being able to work with the improvisation, and you're also working at the emotion, and you're also working at the fact that you're able to relax and stay in present in your being. So you're able to do all these things, and you need this so that you can equip yourself so that you can be really powerful actor, which is usually the most powerful actors are the most receptive actors. So anyway, thanks very much. Boop the like button or whatever it's called these days, and appreciate you. My name is Simon Blake.